Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I of course am just another heavy metal maniac, and today I am very excited to bring you all another album review. So today I'm going to be discussing the newest studio offering from Pentagram entitled Lightning in a Bottle. So this released on the 31st of January, so a few days ago as of when I am recording this. And yeah, this is the 9th studio album from this legendary doom metal band. Really, Pentagram, I feel like, I don't think they need any kind of introduction. They are legendary doom metal band, one of the most influential bands in that entire genre. They formed all the way back in 1971, so yeah, they are definitely veterans of the metal scene. They have been around a very, very long time. And yeah, this is their 9th studio album overall. And yeah, I was definitely eagerly anticipating this release when it was announced, because Pentagram are honestly probably one of my favorite bands ever. I think this band's early material is just absolutely untouchable for, you know, just doom metal. I actually did do a Pentagram discography ranking. Go watch that if you have not. But yeah, so about this album, this is, first of all, I'm just going to say that if you liked Pentagram before this album, you're going to like this album, because, I mean, Pentagram, they really haven't changed their sound around that much. They do stick to a fairly consistent formula, I'd say, although they there are a couple different things about this album that I do appreciate a little bit. This is also their longest gap in between studio albums, their whole 10 years between this one and their previous album, Curious Volume, which I really like Curious Volume. I thought that album was awesome. And yeah, so this album, the thing kind of strikes me about this album is that it does sound a little bit different than some of their previous albums, because Pentagram obviously known as just, you know, that very doomy, you know, band, just, you know, pure kind of Black Sabbath worshipping, heavy riffs, just, you know, kind of, but also that underlying kind of 70s rock influence, where you could argue, like, when this band's earlier material, when they were recording like just old demos and stuff in the 70s, that they definitely fit in that kind of 70s heavy rock space as well a little bit. And then they kind of brought that over to their more explicit doom metal sound. With this album, I feel like it's not as doomy as some of their previous releases. I feel like they kind of toned down maybe the whole, just, you know, heavy, you know, Black Sabbath worshipping doom aspect, and kind of brought in a lot more of that kind of 70s rock sound. And that's kind of what Bobby Liebling actually said in some of his, like, when he was talking about this album, like, prior to this release. He said that during the making of this album, he was influenced by a lot of just, you know, like, you know, 70s, you know, bands that he really liked, like Sir Lord Baltimore, which, yeah, he was, you know, big, you know, so this album, he just kind of said was him kind of playing to his kind of influences a lot. And you can definitely hear that, because, again, there's a lot of 70s rock influence on here. There's a lot of that kind of, like, 60s psychedelic atmosphere as well, but still very metal. It's still definitely a metal album for sure. The production of this album is a little more modern, but it's not, like, it's overly clean or overly polished. It still has that old school kind of, you know, doom metal spirit to it, and yeah, a little bit more modern, but still, you know, retaining all that dirt and grit you need for an album like this. Guitar tone on this album I do really enjoy. Pentagram's always been great about just having fantastic guitar tones, and this album is no exception. The guitar tone on this album, it's warm, it's thick, and it's heavy. And overall, there are some absolutely awesome songs on this album, like the opening track, Live Again. I really like that song. I Spoke to Death, I thought was a banger. Lady Heroine is probably my favorite track on the album. Well, either that or the final track, Walk the Sociopath. Both of those songs are absolutely awesome in my opinion. Walk the Sociopath is definitely probably the heaviest track on this album. It's just, you know, just very slow, just very doomy, just, you know, great riffs. The title track is also really, really good. I will say this album is kind of, again, a little bit different than kind of what I was expecting, because I guess going into this, I was expecting something maybe a little closer to the previous albums, like Curious Volume or Last Rites, which were very, you know, just very, very, very doomy albums. But again, a lot of the songs on this album are kind of more, they're a little more up-tempo, and they're a little more just kind of, not necessarily like faster paced, but maybe kind of more like faster than than a typical Pentagram album. So really, so if you're going into this expecting it to sound like, say, you know, Day of Reckoning or Be Forewarned, it does sound a little bit different, but it still sounds like Pentagram. Again, Pentagram are a very consistent band for the most part, so it still retains their identity, just kind of brings in more of that, you know, kind of up-tempo 70s rock kind of influence. In terms of, like, any criticisms I have of this album, I don't have any, like, overt, like, major criticisms or anything. It's just, again, it's a little different than what I was expecting. Like, if this was, I kind of going into this, I wanted it to be closer to the Pentagram, the era of Pentagram that I really, really connect with, which is like the first 3 albums: Relentless, Day of Reckoning, Be Forewarned. Like, those are the 3 albums that I think of when I think Pentagram, because they are just perfect. The production on these albums is perfect. Like, those are like 3 of my favorite albums, like, ever. So going into this, I wanted this album to sound a little bit more like those, and again, it kind of doesn't, because again, it's just very, very just kind of more focused on these, you know, kind of more hard rock kind of influences. Again, still metal, but, you know, it's just not as doomy as some of their previous releases, and there's a lot more kind of psychedelic kind of stuff that they kind of throw into the mix here as well. So yeah, overall, I do really, really like this album. I would definitely do see myself returning to this album quite a bit. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it like maybe like a 3.5 out of 5, I think. Is this album going to be like on my year-end list? Probably not. And again, in terms of like Pentagram albums, this definitely is not my favorite. I prefer their older material for sure. But I think this is still definitely worth hearing. Again, if you've not heard Pentagram before, definitely. I wouldn't say start with this album. Start with like Relentless. I think that's still their best album. No spoilers for those who haven't seen my Pentagram discography. You can go watch that if you haven't. But yeah, this album, again, if you like just old school doom metal, if you like Black Sabbath, if you like, you know, Trouble, Saint Vitus, Up to the Obsessed, all those bands. I would also say if you like kind of more like 70s, like heavy rock, kind of proto metal bands, like if you're a fan of like Sir Lord Baltimore and like maybe like Budgie or Toad. Check this album out. I think you'll get a lot out of it. For me, I do enjoy this album, and yeah, Pentagram, Lightning in a Bottle, definitely a very, very, very solid, worthwhile release from these guys. And well, that concludes my review of Pentagram's new album, Lightning in a Bottle. If you made it to the end of this video, you are awesome, and I appreciate you. What are your thoughts on this album? Leave your comments down below. If you're not subscribed, do consider subscribing, because I do have a lot more content coming your way. And, well, that about does it. I am just another Heavy Metal Maniac. I'll see you all sometime in the future. In the meantime, all of you take care and have a great day. So long.